Hello everyone, welcome to another tutorial. Today we are going to be painting waffles with blueberries on top. And the reason we're doing this is to learn shadow, depth, form. These waffle squares definitely have to look like they are indented. And so we're going to learn how to get that depth. And then the blueberries need to look round, and so we will learn that also. These are the colors that I am going to use today. If you are color mixing, that's great. All you need is a red, yellow, and blue. And if you don't know how to do color mixing, go ahead and look at my other video. If you have red, yellow, and blue, you can definitely make the browns and the black that you need. All right. I am going to be using 3 brushes, 2, maybe 3 brushes. This is a size 14 brush that I like to use just when I do washes to help things go a little bit quicker. But these are the ones I'm going to be using mostly. I've got a round 6 and a round 2 watercolor brush, and they are Princeton Heritage brand. All right. So I am going to be using my golden brown first to do a wash all over the waffles. And this golden brown is a yellowy brown, and I'm going to water it down quite a bit. And I just want this yellow to be able to pop through after I add my more realistic colors of brown. I want to have a little bit of this in there that'll be showing through. It's always good to put a light wash down first, and it makes putting other color down a little less intimidating. I'm going to do this on the waffles that have blueberries also, because it will be covered with that dark blue that we're going to add. Next, I'm going to do a little bit darker wash, but I'm going to this time do kind of an ombre look. I'm going to add this golden brown to my sepia. Sepia is just a darker, very average brown color. And this is what I'm getting here after mixing. So this is the color of the sepia. And I can show you the color of the saddle brown also. It's just a little bit more pink, but you don't notice this one until it's actually on the paper and dries. So that one's a little bit tricky. So I have this mixture, and I'm going to start from the bottom and lighten it as we go up. So I added the color to the bottom, and then I don't grab any more color. I just swish my brush and get more water. So the top should be pretty close to what it was before. Now I've got this line here that I don't want. I want it to fade out a little better than that. And while it's wet, you can just keep moving it as much as you want. So now I have this medium to light value here, and I want to do the same thing on this waffle. I'm actually going to do it the other way. So I've got my color down. I'm gonna get water. Swish again, get more water. I want this one to be a little bit darker, so I'm going to add more. And when you add darker, you've got to add it to the very edge where you want that dark side, and then move it again. You don't want to add it to the middle, even if that is where it needs it. You're better off to put it up here and then move it down a little bit. All right, we'll let those dry. I'm gonna switch to my number 6 brush. Now I need to do a wash on top of all of my blueberries. So I'm just going to do a really light wash. I keep trying to add more water to get it lighter. As light as I want it. Here's my blue, but I keep adding water until I get it about like this. And this is a little bit purpley right now, but it does dry the color I want it to be. Now hopefully your waffles are dry enough that you can do a wash on them. This is a controlled wash. We don't want this blue to get on the background. All right, that was a little tedious, but we have done that wash. So hopefully your page is starting to look like mine now that we have these washes in here. I have decided that I want to do an ombre on these waffles as well, and I should have done that before I put in my blueberry wash, but because these blueberries are going to be so much darker, it's okay for us to go in and redo this wash and get this ombre on here. So I have this mixture again of golden brown and sepia, and where this one's on the top, I'm going to start here. So this is covering up those blueberries, but it's just because I haven't added any water yet. They will be fine. I'm going back to my large brush. I like how much water I can get on this brush and how much quicker I can get my wash, which also gives me a more even wash without having any water lines from when things have dried. Okay, so I don't know if you can tell on the video or not, but I can still see all of my blueberry shapes. So this is going to be just fine. I'll do the same thing down here. We're going to start on the top. All right, I feel better about that. We needed some background on those waffles. While we're waiting for that to dry, we can come and do some of these outside blueberries. And you see how they dried blue instead of purple. So as this goes on, again, it's going to look purple, but it will dry blue. So I have my darkest area focused on the middle here with my waffles, and so the side of the blueberries that are closest to the center, I'm going to have dark. So I'm doing this edge here, and then I'm going to blend it out. And then I want to have a highlight in there, and you can either leave the highlight when you're doing this color, or you can scrub it out. And it looks like this color specifically doesn't want to scrub out very well. So next time I'm going to leave it. Let's do another one so we can see that. Got my dark color on the inside, and I'm going to start spreading it around. And if I use circle strokes, it's also going to give that illusion of being a sphere shape. So I'm leaving my highlight here, but it's not going to be that stark. I just leave it for a second, let other things dry. And then I can blend it out a little bit. I just don't want any hard lines. So I'm having to keep going over that a little bit as I get hard lines. This color I'm already seeing is drying more quickly than I'm used to with other blues. So I just have to adjust. It's not always the type or brand of paint, but like even specific colors in the brand you're used to will dry a little bit differently. Because this one's already dry, I can go in here with something really dark and add, I don't know, a blueberry top, that little area up there. Oop, and I should have waited a little bit longer on that one. That's what happens when it was wet. But we'll leave it. So with my color, that's as long as I need to wait to be able to have a highlight there. And I'm gonna wait to do my top on this one. So I've got my dark edge here now, as I'm always focused on the darker going towards the center. All right, if you have a stubborn color like I do, I'm going to tell you something. The reason I'm choosing this color is because I have a ton of colors, and there are some that I just don't use very much, and I chose this one because I don't use it much and I wanted to use it up. So, but I'm not liking the way that it's almost attaching to the paper, soaking into the paper too quickly. So to combat that, I'm not going to change colors. I need to be consistent. So I am going to try a wet on wet approach and see if I can get it to move a little bit better. So if you ever have this issue, you'll be able to see how to fix it. So wet on wet means I'm going to put my water inside first, and I'm going to touch this out, this inside section, and let it move. And now I'm just going to spread it around in the water that's already there. And now I can have a highlight here, and it's still able to move. So I feel like with this color specifically, the wet on wet is going to work a little bit better for me. Okay, we'll just do one more together, and then we'll go back to the waffles. All right. I don't want to do these ones just because they'll be kind of in my way. I don't want them to be wet as I'm putting my wrist on my paper. So again, everything, if you plan on this being our center area where everything is dark from here out, that means each of my squares need to be dark. These ones need to be dark on the left and bottom. These ones need to be dark on the top and right, and I can show you more of what I mean. So for these squares, I'm going to mix my other two browns. I've got my saddle brown and my sepia, and all this does is just warm it up slightly. That saddle brown has a little bit of a reddish tint to it. I'm going to start on this side because I can see my lines a little bit better. So if I outline this, then I can come in and blend it out to make that center hollow area. But I want the top and the right side to be stark lines like this, and I want these two to just be more subtle. Those ones aren't quite dark enough for me. So as soon as you put the color down, and it's mostly color without water when you do that, and then you add your water. I still didn't have enough color. You add your water to spread it out and make the rest of your square shape. We'll do it one more time. So that's the look we're going for. I'm going to do a time lapse while I do all the squares on this and this waffle. I made a little mistake when I was recording, and I meant to do a real time, but I did a time lapse. So I'm going to explain how I got to this point. I did a dark mix here along the outside and then blended it in on each of the sides, but darker on the left and bottom of this one, darker on the top and right of this one, and having the dark little edges where the batter kind of squeezes out of the mold. That's what these little pieces are. So my dark mixture right there was my sepia plus my golden brown. Then I mixed my sepia with black to do these shadows that go in between all of the blueberries. And now we can just start on our blueberries. We are going to do the same thing that we did on all of these, but as soon as I have them all looking about like this, I'm going to go in and do a little bit of black for some extra shadow. And so to show that, I'm going to do it on some of these that are already done and dry. These colors are too bright to be realistic, and so that's why we need to go back in and darken them up and kind of desaturate that color. So I have my black. So I do it the same way I did before, where I put that on and then I am going to spread it around with just water. And I think that my little blueberry top here is also too blue. So it's good that I didn't put those in everywhere, because I think that black or a black and blue mixture is going to be a better option here. So I just put black there, but that's how I'm going to leave it. I feel good about that blueberry. So I'm going to do a time lapse, and I'm going to get all of my blueberries to this stage, and then I'll go over them again with this black. After I added the black shadows to these blueberries, I added some of this top, I don't even know, stem hole right here. And then I blended it out a little bit. So I'm going to show how I did that on these. Now the placement of these is very random. You don't want them all to be where the highlight is. And that it shouldn't be a circle either. It should be random in shape. So these marks I made are a little too perfect, I guess. And so I just have a really damp brush that I'm spreading this out, and I'm just kind of muddying up the edges a little bit of it. And then it looks more realistic, like there's some shadow there, that maybe some of it is raised and just more random and true to what it would be. So the blueberries are done, and the last thing that I want to do is add some dots to the waffles so that they look a little bit more realistic, I guess. So I'm going to still be using my 6 brush, and I'm going to get a dark version of my sepia and golden brown mix. These are all just really random, and I am going to blend them out a little bit. So I'm rinsing my brush, and I have just a very damp brush now. And I'm doing the same kind of motions that I did with the tops of the blueberries. It's kind of just dabbing them so that you can still see the very dark dots, but we also have a little bit more dimension around them. My brush is a little bit dirty from grabbing that color, and so I'm just going to use it on its own. It's just a barely there water that I'm adding, and it's just adding a tiny, tiny bit more dimension to these waffles. Okay, I'll leave that one as it is, and we'll move on to this one. Do the same thing by grabbing that darker mixture. Now I'm going to blend them out a little bit. And now I'm just using that dirty water. Okay, that's it. I think we're going to leave it be. Thanks for watching.